And we've just been watching the limousines of the Commonwealth leaders drive through the palace gates in time for their dinner with the Queen, their banquet with the Queen later tonight. Well, earlier today, I managed to interview the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Chastanet. I began by asking him whether he was reassured by what Theresa May said about the Windrush crisis yesterday.
Absolutely. I mean, there was a tremendous amount of sincerity, and I think that she came with a very cohesive plan to solve the problem. But how successful it's going to be, that's what we have to wait and see. So there's really two things at play: how quickly they can implement the things that they've recommended. But more importantly, there's obviously a lot of people out there who have been terrified. So when people are asking how many numbers are affected...
Do you know how many on your island?
No, I don't.
Did you know this was an issue at all before?
No, we didn't know it was an issue. We had picked it up from our High Commissioners a couple of weeks ago, and I think that they were trying to get it resolved.
You don't know at the moment how many people are affected by this on St. Lucia?
No, and I wouldn't. I mean, because remember, they're residing here, and so they're not necessarily in touch with us. We don't have a registry of people.
Will you try and find out? I mean,
we obviously will.
To them?
We will, because what we've done is working with the British government in terms of either using our High Commissions or the special toll-free number that they've set up, and that as soon as they call us, that we will help. And we're just imploring all of them not to be scared. Anything's going to happen to them, and we're going to work collectively to make sure that they can get properly documented.
What about properly compensated? Because that's a big issue for many of them as well. Will you push for them to be compensated?
We did at the meeting, very hard.
You did?
Yeah, very, very hard.
What was the response?
Very favorable, and clearly...
I mean, outright, yes, we're going to help, or we'll look at it and maybe...
No, outright, yes, we're going to help. I know for sure, moving forward, they're going to be able to help. So restoring people's access to the healthcare and education systems and their driver's license, and certainly giving them legal aid in terms of making sure that there's no additional expenses.
Do you think this issue, this mess, was deliberate, or was it an oversight?
No, I think we're all convinced that it was a cock-up. You implement a policy, and all of a sudden there are adverse sides to it that you would not have anticipated.
So to those critics of the government who point to the Home Office and to the Prime Minister, who was in charge of the Home Office for 6 years, and say this is institutional racism, what do you say to them?
Look, I can't say that, but I can see how some people would feel that way. I mean, there are clearly other things that have happened to West Indians and people of color that makes you question whether, in fact, there's two sets of rules. And again, that's a consequence. So every time that these kinds of things happen, immediately there is always going to be some people who believe that there's some level of prejudice that was existing. But it's our job as leaders to work with the existing government, to accept their apology, accept that it was a cock-up, but more importantly, alleviate the situation and try to get people documented as quickly as possible.
This morning in that building there, I think, the Queen asked you and your colleagues to anoint her son as the head of the Commonwealth. Have you listened?
We have listened.
Have you said yes?
No, tomorrow that we're going off to the Windsor Castle, and all the heads will be there, and that's one of the topic of discussions.
Did she need to ask?
I don't know. I've certainly not had the opportunity to consult the other heads, and that's why we have to go through the process. But certainly from a St. Lucia perspective, we think that Prince Charles has put a tremendous amount of time into the Commonwealth. He's very well known. He knows the Commonwealth extremely well. It's an exciting time because many people believe now, because England is going through Brexit, a new relevance will be made of the Commonwealth.
So is Brexit the thing that ensures that Prince Charles becomes head of the Commonwealth?
No. That's not what I mean. I think Brexit creates an opportunity, and I think a Prince Charles brings new energy and hopefully a well-heeled focus. And I think that he's one of those people that can help unify the entire Commonwealth, and wherever our differences are, that we perceive those differences as strengths.
And just finally on trade, I mean, people who are in favour of Brexit in this country, in government and outside government, talk a lot about the opportunities that are out there with Commonwealth countries when it comes to trade outside the EU. Do you think that's realistic?
It is, if in fact there are policies and an environment which is conducive to that. All of a sudden, by coming back into the Commonwealth, having very good meetings, starting to understand each other, because if you think of it, 54 members have changed significantly from when we started in 1949. And so therefore, there are new opportunities that are existing to grow.